Hello everybody and welcome along to VSL F1 Season 10, the opening round of the season, and we head to Silverstone tonight for the British Grand Prix. We got some new drivers, we got some returning faces, and I've got a brand new commentator alongside me, but a familiar face to me. We got to my left and to your right, it's Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Jess. Yeah, it's great to be in the commentary box with you once again. Now that we've got a week's break in another league, we've joined forces in somewhere else, which is great to see. And yeah, looking forward to this. First time commentating over VSL, so yeah, excited to see what these drivers can offer us tonight around a very familiar track to them.
Yeah, Silverstone first used in Formula 1 back in 1950 near Northamptonshire, which I'm going to in July, which is very, very exciting. And we've got obviously 20 drivers in the tier that are ready to kickstart the season. Only 17 drivers tonight, but I'm sure we're going to have a good race nonetheless as well. And it also has a threat of rain coming up as well, which hopefully should not affect the drivers too much. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see what happens. We've got the Tier 1 champion from last season as well. And we got certain drivers that didn't do well last season ready to kick off their season and have a better start to the season at least. But at least in qualifying, it's dry. But we'll have a look at qualifying in just a moment. We'll look at our calendar, which we went through briefly last week. We've got Britain obviously kicking off the season. Then we got the sprint race around Austria. We got Miami round 3. Then we got Spain, Hungary, Portugal. Then we got a week break after that. Then we got Australia, China, Monza sprint race. We got Monaco. I don't know why every calendar I seem to commentate on recently does Monaco, but there we go. We got Kota, and then we got the final round, which is a sprint race around Brazil. So, yeah, a variety of tracks. Obviously, we've got a street circuit. We got one of the newest tracks in the F1 calendar, and we got a track that has not been on the F1 calendar since 2019. Well, 2 tracks haven't been on the F1 calendar this season. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to Silverstone, but there are many good tracks that should definitely throw a spanner in the works, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. It's a real mix of classic tracks and really difficult ones, isn't it? Like you say, there's a lot of street circuits in there. Obviously, Miami in there. Monaco, of course, stands out as probably the big. I think the thorn in the side, I would say, for a lot of drivers. Monaco's not a particular favourite for many drivers, but for me, for myself, I love it. So I can't wait for that one. Yeah, Australia, another one as well, of course, obviously remodelled on this game. So yeah, a lot to look forward to, I would say, with this season. And for me personally, I'm excited to commentate on a race at Miami. I can't actually remember the last time I commentated on a race around Miami, if I actually have done that. So I'm excited for them to go to Miami in just a couple of weeks' time.
I think the first time we ever commentated on Miami was our second full-time race we commentated together in another league, which I'm not going to say which league it is, but yeah, it was actually a good one. The one at VSL, though, was a bit of carnage. There was quite a few desync issues everywhere, but hopefully we won't suffer the same desync issues in a few weeks' time, but we'll have to wait and see. So, we went through the calendar. We may as well go through the track, so I will go on to the scene. There we go. So Yarham is one of the first drivers to take us on board a lap, as someone is going into the pits already, so they weren't happy with their lap, it looks like, or they're just slowing down a bit. They're slowing down a bit. So past the Hamilton straight, heading towards Abbey now, a very, very unique part of the circuit built on the site of an airfield. Oh, as Yarham had a bit of a moment going through turn 3, so that's not going to be a tidy lap from himself, but we may as well stay on board with him anyway. We've got a Williams, I believe, in front of him. I believe that might be Tam, who did very well on his debut to the pre-season last week, and is looking like to be one of the favourites going into this season already. But Yarham past Brooklands into Luffield. Now you should see the Brooklands sign next time when we go on board with someone. Heading towards Woodcote, the old pit straight, which I do prefer, by the way. It was changed in 2009 for the Hamilton straight to obviously be the pit straight. Past Cops Corner, which you can take flat out with low fuel if you play it steady, but some people like to take less risk, as Yarham has already invalidated, so he's not going to get a run in. We got Tam, who's on a lap, so let's go on board with him right now. We got 2 McLarens on a lap as well, but let's go on board with Tam going through Stowe. Easy to invalidate through there as well, as you take it around about. I'm not doing very well with laps today, Aidan, am I? As soon as I go on board with someone, they either invalidate or they seem to dive it into the pit lane. Who else is on the run? I think hopefully Luke doesn't invalidate. Please go on, Luke. Are you gonna not invalidate? Yes, you're not going to invalidate. That's good. So Luke comes across the line. We got Jinx a 1:27.3 to set the benchmark, which is a good lap time already around Silverstone. Luke comes across the line, about 7 tenths clear of his teammate. And Mercedes 1-2 at the moment. We got a Red Bull up to the line of Simon Palmer. He's up to the line as well, 1:28.5. And then we got more people going through the start. Pretty much most people are in Brooklands right now, starting off their lap. So yeah. 3 lap times on the board, and Jinx currently did him fastest.
Yeah, good lap on the board there from Jinx, like you said. Mercedes 1-2 at the moment, but only 3 times on the board, of course, so plenty still to come. People aren't really rushing out to get laps done around here. They're kind of playing it safe at the moment, which is definitely fair. GMAT's just crossed the line to do a 28.4 to go on into 3rd position, so bit of a spread at the moment at the front of the field, but we've already seen a lot of drivers come into the pit lane after invalidating their laps. Both Williams are coming into the pit lane on their laps. Tam was a bit of a weird one. He didn't invalidate at any point in the lap, but I think he must have made a mistake very early on in the lap, and he's just bailed out of it immediately as across the line comes. I think we're going to call him Dax for tonight, but I'm not quite sure. It's going to be a bit of a difficult one to pronounce with all the consonants mixed together. But yeah, he goes into P2, just 2.5 tenths off the top of the timesheets. Casper next across the line as well for McLaren, and now Glock crosses the line and puts 3 tenths on Jinx. So good lap there from Glock in the Haas. He goes to provisional pole position.
Yeah, good lap time so far from Glock. I know he's a quick driver on the F1 game, so to be honest, not really that surprised. Obviously, it's a mixed ability. Well, it's not really a mixed ability grid, but it's a mix in terms of what assists they choose to run. I think they can run as many assists as they want, but don't quote me on that, as Glock actually commented that you want to be consistent this season, and Glock said that is his favourite track, Silverstone, on the calendar, and you're probably going to hate Glock for him saying this, but he doesn't like Monaco's because his biggest rival at saying is the barriers, but he's hoping for a decent haul of points and good racing throughout the season. So Glock is definitely showing his expectations for this race already, definitely with being P1, but who else is about to finish off their run? We got Ewan going through sector 2. I think we got... Is Iceman going to finish off his lap? Yes, he is going to finish off his run, but he doesn't have that much ERS because he's going to finish it anyway. 1:27.9, that puts it into P4. Our champion from last season only in P9, so I was expecting him to be up higher, but obviously he's still getting used to being on the game again. He is on the pad, though, because his wheel broke, unfortunately. That's probably why. Ewan has unfortunately invalidated, so that's it for the lap times so far. Cam, interestingly, has gone out on the medium compounder tyres. I'm guessing he doesn't want to use softs earlier on, which is fair enough. You can use softs for a little bit around this track, but it is going to be a one-stop race. I doubt they want to use the softs, as Cam has had a bit of a spin. Luckily, it's his out lap, but his tyres are going to be really hot. I suggest he goes into the pits right now.
Yeah, I definitely suggest that as well. That's going to put some life on those that he didn't want at all. And yeah, not quite sure why he's gone out on the medium compound tyre, because he has already done an invalidated run on the softs. So it's not as if by doing this he's really saving a set of softs, because he's already burnt through a set. So yeah, not quite sure on this strategy for Cam. Maybe he's just not quite confident enough yet in his setup, and he just wants to go out and do a half decent lap time and try and improve his confidence maybe around the circuit. Other than that, I'm not quite sure what the decision there is, as Yaram's on lap at the moment in the Alpine, 27.5 for the first sector. So hopefully this time around he can keep the car within the track limits and keep this lap going as he heads up towards Copse Corner. So easy to name the corners around this track, isn't it? It's nice to be able to race around a track where we can just go by corner names and not corner numbers, as he heads up to Maggots, Beckett and Chapel, probably one of the most famous corner sections in the world. And he's just turned it a little bit too early there to the first part of Beckett, and he has invalidated, unfortunately, as Yaram. So that's going to be another lap not on the board. And this is a track synonymous for that, isn't it? It's a track that you can push at so easily, and it's so easy to step over the lines, whether it's on the exit of a corner like Stowe that Yaram's going through now. You can do it through Club as well. And actually, Yaram's gone a little bit too far over the edge at Stowe and spun the car. So just keeps it out of the wall on the inside. But yeah, not a great start to qualifying, unfortunately, for the Alpine driver. He's really struggled in these opening 8 or so minutes.
I have to say, quite a lot of people seem to be struggling. Everyone from like 11th downwards are seen to be not getting their lap together at the moment. But I can speak from experience, because I got another league race on Friday where it's actually around Silverstone, and it's just really hard for the first few moments just to hook a perfect lap, because sometimes you may get a good lap in and sometimes you may be having a bad day and you can't seem to get a lap together as well. So it's just about practice, and most people would have practiced a bit more due to the fact that it is the opening round of the season, as we got Keza, who is on a run at the moment, heading towards Cops. Let's see if he produces a better lap than other drivers. He's another new driver as well. He's been in league racing for 6 years. He's teammates with his best friend Simon. He decided to team up with them because they get on well. And his expectations for tonight, top 10 finish, and to boost confidence racing in this league leading up to the season. And he likes China, which is fair enough because it hasn't raced much on this game. And he doesn't like Monaco either. I think we're going to see a theme that not many people are going to like Monaco, but boo. Anyway, Keza up to the line. He's at 18th for now, but he's not going to be last at the moment, at 1:28.3, which is about 2 tenths shy of him being in the top 10, so still more time to find. We've got Luke, who I was riding on board earlier on, 1:27.9. He's got to find 9 tenths to beat Glock at the moment, which is going to be easier said than done. Stalking at that, 1:26.8. That's what I was expecting from like someone in a bigger league, but 1:26.8 in this league, I have to say, is very impressive from the ET8 esports driver. We'll see what Luke can do in Elite Racing Team. Up to the line, what can he do? P4, only 2 tenths shy of Glock, but again, just can't beat his teammate. It's like, you know, the experienced one is beating the one that's just joined the league full time.
Yeah, definitely. It's still a good lap on the board for Luke nonetheless, but yeah, still 4 tenths off of his teammate, and that's only 3 positions on the grid behind. But yeah, Jinx has got a hold on that car so far at the moment. He's doing a very good job in that Mercedes. So yeah, not too bad at all. Glock is currently on a lap at the moment in the Haas, so we'll see what he can do for his second sector split, whether he does improve or not, whether he's able to retake that pole position. But knowing Glock, you would expect him to be able to do that. But unfortunately, he's made a mistake through the end of Beckett and has gone off the road, so he will not be improving on this lap, will the Haas driver, unfortunately. So yeah, not an improvement this time around for Glock, but I've raced against Glock personally myself for many a year. We know, I know Jess has obviously commentated over Glock a lot of times in the past as well. We know he's a fast driver. He's going to be a threat all season long, is Glock, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see what he can do. His Haas teammate is currently on a lap as well, but currently a 10th down on his personal best, so he's not finding any time on this lap at the moment is Dax. We'll see if he can find maybe a bit of time in the final sector and still improve, but he's got a 3.5 tenth gap to the next car in front of him on the grid, so even if he does improve, it's not going to really gain him anything on track. He does improve in the final sector, but he is still, well, he's exactly now 3/10 of a second behind Luke in front of him, so still a lot more time to find. And now Charlie Harris and the Ferraris managed to slot in between that gap into 5th place now for the Ferraris, so Ferrari's starting to show their worth a little bit now, as Matta and Charlie have both put themselves inside the top 10. By the way, Cam did set that lap on the medium compound tyres and managed to go 7th on a set of mediums. So
wow.
Look out for Cam. Look out for Cam at the end of this session on a set of softs. He could definitely be a threat at the front of the field, along with his teammate Tam, who was also currently 3rd on the grid.
Let's just say Cam was so close last season to get the championship. He started off quite weak, but towards the end of the season, he was very strong. And if he had that same form as he did at the start of last season, I think he would have been champion. But it just goes to show how much he's improved on this game, as Ewan has decided to go into the pit lane. But Yarham is pretty much the unlucky person. I tend to curse a lot in this league, and hopefully I don't curse him in this league and he finishes more races this season. But Yarham at the back of the grid at the moment, yet to set a lap time, same with Ewan, but he's got a bit of clean air heading towards Stowe now, so he's on full batteries. I think he's going to back off and go into the pits. Yes, he's going to back off and go into the pits. Never mind. Anyone else who's about to finish off a run? We got Speed Knighton in 10th place in that Aston Martin, teaming with Iceman in this season. He's going to go up to line 4, fastest for him. He's found some time all of a sudden. That's great news for the Aston Martin pairing, but things can't be said for the Iceman, as he's binned it, unfortunately, and he's going into the pits. Luckily, the pit couldn't have come soon enough for Iceman, but there he comes, going into the pits just to wait for a little bit until the next run. Our champion, Kieran, has invalidated his run, so he's going to go into the pits as well, it looks like. So, yeah, it is the calm before the storm, before everybody else goes out on circuit for one final time. But there's two people leaving it really early to go out on track. That is Casper and Waitsy having to clear out. Waitsy going out even earlier than what Casper is. So I guess he wants to get some lap times on the board earlier.
Yeah, guessing maybe it's potentially leaving himself just enough time if he does make a mistake maybe in the first sector so that he can back off and go again for another run, or maybe he just wants the clean track and doesn't want to have his warm-up lap interfered with. Maybe he just wants a warm-up lap on a clean track so he can prep the tyres as he likes. One driver who is on a lap at the moment is Cam. He's just doing his first proper run on the softs, a little bit out of sync with everybody else, so I think this will probably be his only run on the softs for Cam through the first sector. Only finds a 10th though on his medium run in the first sector. You'd probably say the mediums are going to lose out the most in the middle part of the lap compared to the softs, so we'll see what Cam can do in the middle part, whether he can gain a bit more time. But yeah, not the fastest first sector we have seen so far in this session from the Williams driver as he heads up towards Cops, using all the curb on the left-hand side before turning in. Nice line through there, downshifting into 7th gear as well, of course. These cars aren't really able to get flat through Cops even in qualifying anymore, so you're going to see a lot of people downshifting into that corner as he heads through the Maggots and Beckett's complex and out the other side. We'll see what his middle sector is looking like. And there you go, 4.5 tenths in the middle sector, he is up. So this looks like it could potentially challenge Tam, his teammate, for a spot on the front row, on the second row of the grid. There's still a little bit more time to find if he wants to get onto the front row and challenge Jinx and Brock, who have dominated this qualifying session so far as he heads through the Vale and Club chicane. Club, of course, reprofiled in 2010, along with all the other changes that came to the track at the time. Cam crosses the line, and he does go just ahead of his teammate onto the second row. It's currently a Null Williams second row lockout at the moment, with Cam in third, just ahead of Tam. But Tam has now just started his own run to see if he can knock his teammate back down a peg.
There are a lot of teams that have their factories not that far from Silverstone, of course. We have Aston Martin that's literally across the road. And, of course, we have Williams that are based in the UK as well, in Grove. They recently launched their livery this week, which I like the Duracell addition to the livery. I think that's probably one of the main changes to that livery, to be honest. Of course, we have Mercedes in Brackley as well, not that far from Silverstone. Red Bull are based in Milton Keynes. McLaren are based in Roadkin as well. So there are a lot of home teams here today, which should be interesting. I think apart from AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari and Haas, so are not based obviously in England, so it's not going to be their home Grand Prix today. It's a lot of home Grand Prix for a lot of the drivers as well. We got Tam, who's gone purple in Sector 2 at the moment, so it looks like he could beat his teammate. Interestingly enough that the teammates decide to pair up that rhyme with each other. Consideration, a coincidence? I think not. I don't even know, to be honest, if it's a coincidence. But anyway, Tam up to the line then for his potential final run in qualifying. Could it be pole? No, but he's the second man into the 126s. Pretty good going for him. Yarham's in the middle of his run. G-Mac's going to start off his run at the moment in the Alfa Romeo. Simon Palmer heading towards the first sector. Not much improvement though, 34,000 slower than his previous best. But the second sector is really where you can make or break a lap. So watch out to see what these drivers can do. Oh, Dax, I thought Dax was going to bin it there, but he was just warming up his tyres for preparation lap. Interestingly, Matt has gone for the medium compounded tyres for the final run of qualifying, but I'm guessing he just wants a bit of practicing, or maybe he thinks he can't go better and wants to have a bit of warm-up before the race. But we'll see. We'll see what everyone else can do, as everyone is just about to start or complete their runs.
Yeah, just sitting on board with Yaram at the moment. He's managed to get through the Maggots Beckett's without invalidating this time around. His next problem is he has got a lot of traffic running into these final few corners that he's got to try and avoid, hopefully. And there is one of the cars in front is a Haas. I think that may be a Glock just about to start a lap, if I'm not mistaken. But Yaram doesn't really get held up in that final sector as he comes through the club corner, crosses the line. Yaram manages to get P7. So it took him all the session, but he got a time on the board, and it's into the top 10 for the Alpine driver. So not bad at all for Yaram, then right in the competitive range as he would want. Then just seeing who is next to be going for a run at the moment, not quite seeing who is actually going to be the next one across the line. I think into the pits comes Casper. He did invalidate both of his runs on that set of tyres, so no improvement from Casper. G-Mac will be next. G-Mac is 0.7 of a second up on his time at the moment, but he's got to find quite a bit more than that if he wants to get inside the top 10. Crosses the line, only P12 in the end, lost a little bit in the final sector, so not quite the improvement that he would have wanted. Still only one person on the board without a time as well. That is Dewan. He is currently coming through the Maggots and Beckett's complex. We'll see if he can make it through there without invalidating. It looks like he has done, but Dewan doesn't look like he's quite on the pace or on the confidence tonight.
No, he doesn't, unfortunately, but sometimes starting at the back around Silverstone is not too bad, but I think we got more people about to finish their runs then. So we got Matt on the mediums, has found a 10th up in that middle sector then, so he's going to improve just a little bit, but again, not quite enough to get into the top 10, so imagine if he would have gone on to the soft compounder tyres, if he would have found a bit more time, because they do have free choice of tyres in the race on this game, luckily, so you do not have to start on the soft compounder tyres if you don't want to. Charlie Harris, I think, got a bit blocked in qualifying. I'm not sure if it's the AI or if it's someone else, but we got more people about to finish their runs then, so we got Red Bull into the pits then. That's Simon Palmer, I believe, so I think that's probably the reason. But anyway, Charlie Harris up to the line, could have found more time, but it's only P6 for him, but still a competitive lap for the Ferrari driver. No one else is able to improve, unfortunately. So it is Jinx and a 126.8 for him to complete the first pole position of this season. And no one was able to improve on Jinx's on pole time in their final runs of the session.
Yeah, there's something about this game, isn't it? It doesn't really matter what league it is. It just seems to be a game issue where nobody's able to improve on their final runs properly. It never really seems to happen, does it? It never comes together. But yeah, I was on board with Glock actually on his final run. He spun through Maggots and Beckett, so 2 laps after. So he obviously did a really good opening run in the session, but his 2 laps afterwards were both really poor, and he made mistakes in Maggots and Beckett. So that could be maybe the Achilles heel of Glock in the race. We've seen 2 mistakes from him in the same corner in 2 qualifying runs in a row, so maybe that is something we're going to have to keep an eye on when it comes to the race trim. Jinx as well turned into turn 4 at Village and into the loop, sorry, he turned in and hit the sausage curb on the inside and almost lost the rear of the car, so his lap was pretty much over before it started, but that didn't matter. He had pole position anyway, so a good start to qualifying session then. Good start to the season for Jinx in that qualifying session, and a good start as well, of course, for Team Williams as well on the front and on the first 2 rows with both of their cars.
Yep, exactly. We'll go through your order. Then we got a Scottish one too as well. Who would have thought that? I don't think I would have seen that in a league, but we have that in VSL. 1/10 of a second, separating the top 2. Glock and Cam are quite close in 3rd and 4th. We got Iceman in 5th position. Charlie Harris 6th. Speed Knighton in 7th. He was able to improve on his final run. Luke in 8th. Dax in 9th. Yarham, your top 10. Batesy and Matty, your top 12. Don't forget, top 12 score points in this league. G-Mac in 13th, Kieran in 14th, we've got Kedda, Simon Palmer, Casper and Ewan, who is last place. Ewan, I think, the only unrepresentative lap time, but I think quite a lot of these, pretty much all these drivers can do a lot better than me. So there we go. So that is your qualifying then. Any surprises, do you think?
I would say probably the only surprise is seeing our last season's champion Kieran so far down the field. A little bit of a surprise to see the McLaren down. I think it was, 15th on the grid for the McLaren, which is not really where you would expect someone of Kieran's caliber to be, especially considering obviously that he was last year's champion. So maybe not a track that suits Kieran's style here at Silverstone, or maybe just a bit of bad luck on some of his runs. But either way, not a great qualifying, unfortunately, for the previous season's champion. But other than that, you kind of come to expect, obviously, after the preseason rounds as well, we kind of know who's looking fast for this season. Of course, Tam doing a good job in qualifying as well. Cam, we kind of know the Williams drivers were going to be up there as well. But I was also surprised at the end of qualifying, like you mentioned, to see Mata go for a set of mediums on that final run. My only theory behind that is that he'd done 3 runs on the softs and just didn't have enough soft compound tyres left to do a final run. So maybe Matter a little bit out of position compared to where his pace is because he didn't get a final run in. Yeah,
I think so as well. But to be honest, they do have a fresh set of mediums for the race anyway. And if there's no safety cars, they could have the flexibility for that. But if there is a safety car, he's going to have a disadvantage compared to the rest of the field because everyone else will have a fresh set of mediums, a spare one, whereas he will have the one using qualifying where he's been on for a lap. But you know, there's sometimes a method to his madness and sometimes there is a reason, and he'll probably tell the reason at the end of the stream, but there we go. But we've got a 2-minute window whilst they get their setups ready and get a drink before they start the race. So we may as well go ask a few drivers about their thoughts going into the season, which I did ask in the chat earlier on. We did go through a few earlier. I think I went through Glock earlier, but I may as well go through a few. We got Vate, who's a new driver in VSL, and his favourite track is Miami and Portugal. I like that his favourite track is Portugal. He's not sure about his biggest rival at the moment. Maybe tonight, by the end of tonight, he will know who his biggest rival for. And goals for tonight are quite a common goal, a decent point start. So I think a lot of people want to be consistent. Cam, who was in the title fight last season, he's not putting too much pressure on himself being in a title fight this season, but he's looking forward to have some fun. And he likes Kota and Brazil. Not many people have said Kota, actually, so it's nice to see Cam choosing Kota. Could we see a dominant force in Kota? Obviously, have to wait and see. And Petrodax's favourite track is Hungary. Not sure if that's on the calendar, I can't remember, and he doesn't like Australia. So quite a mixed bag of what people like, and a few mixture of goals as well. And by the way, Luke's biggest rival in the championship is his own teammate, Jinx. And, well, Luke, bad news, Jinx is ahead of you at the moment in P1. So, yeah, and just in time, as I said, that won the formation lap. So, yeah, we want to see what tyres they're on. And, well, we got a mixed bag, haven't we, in terms of who's starting on the mediums and who's starting on the hards?
Yeah, it's a very mixed bag, isn't it? I think us two especially are so accustomed to seeing these drivers seeing drivers start on the harder compound tyre at the start of a race, aren't we? We're so accustomed to seeing it across the board that it's actually nice to see a little bit of a difference throughout the field. I think for me, Jinx maybe starting on the mediums isn't really a surprise. I think he will want to try and get away at the front of the field. I think those a bit further down as well, we're potentially hoping for some sort of safety car maybe in the first half of the race, of course. That would benefit the medium runners if they could pit onto the hards and not be compromised by that safety car. But yeah, I'm surprised to see as many medium runners as we have. Of course, only 18 drivers in the field tonight, and in fact over half of them are on the mediums. I expected more people to be on the hard compound tyres. So I think what will make and break the like of the two Williams or Glock's race is if they can stay ahead of the medium runners behind them at the start of the race, and if they can hold on to Jinx at the start of the race as well. I think if not, it's not too much of a worry if they can't keep up with Jinx in the early phases of the race. I think they'll obviously be on the better compound tyre later in the race, but I think the crucial thing for them is to keep the two Astons, Charlie and Luke, behind them at the start if they want to make the hard to medium strategy work.
I'm a bit surprised, actually. Jinx has floored it on the formation lap, and he wants to get going very quickly. He's going to have cold tyres for quite a bit, so yeah, that is going to be interesting. I hope people remember that formation lap is on. They were told. I think Jinx has given a wake-up call there. Let's hope he doesn't get disqualified. He doesn't get disqualified, which is good news. Don't forget you have to do the formation lap yourself on this year's game, which is something that I'm still not used to, even though we've had the game for like over 6 months now. But I think there's going to be, let's see how many disqualifications we're going to get. There's one already, one of the Astons. I think we could have the other Aston. Nope, the other Aston has got the formation lap right. I can't tell if it's purple or green, but we'll see which angle they take to their grid spots at the moment. Vatesy takes to his grid spot all right at the moment. Now, I think the ones on the mediums are going to hope for a safety car early on, because as tradition dictates around Silverstone in VSL, there has been some safety cars around here, so that's probably why, but we shall see. It is a one-stop race, medium to hard or hard medium, and we are about to start the first round of VSL F1 Season 10. The 5 red lights are on, and we are going green, green, green then, and let's see who has the best start. Tam has the best start as well, but Jinx gets a good getaway heading towards turn 1 then, past the Hamilton straight. We'll see if they make through turn 2 or turn 3 all right, because that's where the carnage seems to allude to, and I think they seem to be all right at the moment, but we'll keep an eye on the background, as I think someone's end plate is missing. 2 people have spun. That is Matta and Simon Palmer has had a bit of a spin. No front wing damage there. We got 2 in the McLarens fighting side by side then, heading towards the Wellington straight. No team orders though, but I'm sure one of them will want to be ahead at this moment in time, and this time it is Casper as well, and Ewan wants a piece of the pie as well, going round the outside into Luffield then, but he decides to, I think, back out of this one, because Kieran wants to try and get that position back. So Kieran stays where he is in P15, almost had a bit of a nudge from his teammate. Pretty much Jinx has pulled away from everybody else right now. 1.4 seconds over Tam. Glock in second. Iceman's moved up to 4th as well. Actually, I want to see if anyone else has moved up front. Not many positions moved up front, really, apart from Cam, who's dropped down 1 place, and Iceman has dropped down, who's gained 1. Biggest gainers, though, Johan and Vatey up 2, Keza up 2, and Casper up 3.
Yeah, quite a few changes further down the field as well. Yeah, Mata, unfortunately, the incident with Simon Palmer was kind of on Simon, unfortunately. Mata didn't have a great start. He dropped a few places on the hards, and then Simon kind of went for a little bit of a late braking move into turn number 3 and slammed into the back of the Ferrari and spun him round. Simon's got the damage, but Mata seems to have gotten away without any actual damage to the car. So hopefully for Mata, he can pick up the pace and hopefully rejoin the back of this field fairly soon, as there is a move going on further down the field. Oh, we've got a spinner. Speed Knighton's dropped the Aston Martin coming out of the final corner. It was a good qualifying for both Astons, including Speed Knighton. He's unfortunately on those mediums made a mistake at the end of the first lap, and he's now going to drop down towards the back of the field, which is a real shame. So he's dropped out from a top 10 position. We've also got Dewan having a bit of a moment down into turn number 3. So a few drivers struggling in the early phases with a lack of grip at the moment. One person who isn't, though, is Jinx. Look at the lead that Jinx has got on these medium compound tyres already. He has fired those up lovely, and they are giving him plenty of pace. He's nearly 3 seconds in the lead, and we're only halfway through lap 2. Brilliant start to this race for Jinx, and it's just proving that sometimes starting on the softer compound tyres can work in your favour on a track where tyre temperatures aren't really that much of an issue. It's really paying for Jinx at the moment, as now Cam has gone for a spin. Cam has gone for a spin at Cops. I think Charlie picked up that penalty as well, avoiding the Williams. That is such a shame for Cam. Such a strong qualifying for both Williams, and Cam on those hards has fallen foul to Cops corner. It's a much more difficult corner on this game with these cars. Cam is the first person in the race to fall foul of it.
That is a bit of a shame. A driver that did well last season, and he's dropped down 12 places now in the race. So he's got a lot to gain if he wants to get on that podium position or even win the race as well. But yeah, I think it's great to see someone dominating at this early point of the race, but I wasn't expecting it to be this early, which shows how accustomed you get to around this circuit. There's someone else that's had a bit of a moment. That's an Alpine. That is Johan, that's had a bit of an off in the Hamilton straight there. I think he may have had a bit of a coming together with someone, we don't know, but that's probably gained a lot of more drivers a few positions. Casper, by the way, I don't know where he has come from. I thought he was like 14th, 13th a minute ago. Now he's up to 9th place, up 8 positions so far in this race. So he has gained quite a few places. I think he avoided the carnage that was happening. G-Man in that Alfa Romeo, one of our new drivers, having a great start, up to 11th place. He's gained a 2nd position and passed Johan then, as he heads towards Luffield corner now. Vatey, he's had a good start, up 4 places. He's passed Petrodax, and he's now chasing down Luke for 6th position. First driver to get a penalty, by the way, Charlie Harris. And I'm trying to see if it was track limits. It is track limit penalty, which I wasn't expecting this early on. Probably it might have been triple warning up, and it could be removed by the stewards. We'll have to wait and see. We're running on board with Iceman then as he heads towards the hangar straight, and we'll see the DRS in full force then, and we'll see if it's powerful on this year's game. But it just goes to show the DRS train is even more powerful. We got Glot trying to go side by side with Tam then, heading towards Stowe, and he's going to try and get the left-hand side of Val if he wanted to, but couldn't quite do it. Iceman could have took advantage there, but decided to back out of that. But to be honest, if Tam wasn't in front, Iceman would have definitely got that move done on Glot. These two drivers are quite quick, but you can see Charlie Harris trying to go down the inside of Iceman, and Charlie Harris was thinking, if you can't get past Glot, I'm going to try and get past Glot, and that's exactly what he's going to do and try and chase him down on a set of those medium compounded tyres as well. This is getting very feisty already, and Charlie Harris, I know, likes to climb his way through the field for podium positions, but that penalty is definitely not helping him there.
No, definitely not. No, well, hopefully we'll see if he can get that one removed potentially at the end of the race. So we'll treat it as if he is fighting for position at the moment. Glock, you can see, is he is eager to get past Tam. Tam, for some reason, seems to be really struggling on these hard compound tyres. He doesn't seem to have a lot of pace. His teammate Cam, after that spin, just set the fastest lap of the race down in 16th position, which is a real shame, considering he had the spin before that. So without that, Cam, you would say, looking like the faster Williams driver in the race. Speed Iceman's now got a time penalty through Cops. He is the next driver to pick up that track limit penalty. But look at Charlie Harris on these mediums, immediately up to back of Glock. Something about these mediums at the start of this race look really strong, don't they? They look to have fired off really well in these cars with all the fuel in them. But Charlie Harris just doesn't have the track position to go with it. You would assume if he was ahead of Glock and Tam, he could pull away from these guys fairly easily with the pace he's showing. And Glock again getting close to the back of Tam at Stowe, but not quite close enough this time round to feign a move to the inside line. Yeah, Tam just doesn't seem to be able to get these hard tyres up to temperature very quickly, or doesn't seem to have a lot of confidence in them. Glock seems to have more confidence, and Charlie on the mediums is looking very fast. We've got a yellow flag further down. That is Dewan that has had a spin, I believe, coming out of Stowe. Yes, he has had a spin, unfortunately, so he's down to 16th position. Cam's through up to 15th, and he's got the last year's champion in 14th just ahead of him, and he's ready to make a move. And Kieran, again, just like in qualifying, really struggling, it seems, around Silverstone, doesn't seem more that confident. His teammate Casper, though, like you said, great start to this race. Currently P9 now, sitting comfortably inside the points with a really, really good start to this race, and he's on the back of Petra Dax as well, who's on those hard compound tyres, of course, and is... Look at the Casper's got a good car in a straight line that he's able to catch Dax that much down the Wellington straight. It's a relatively short straight, and they were both using DRS. But Casper seems to have a good car in a straight line, so he could definitely be a threat to get past the Haas fairly quickly, and he'll want to if he wants to make this strategy work.
Yeah, I think so as well, and I think with the DRS train going to be this big, I feel we may not see any moves. And talking of that, Charlie Harris trying to go for a move into Cop's corner out of all places, but didn't quite work. But Iceman tried to do it before Cop's, well, after Cop's corner, gets a move on Mag, and that's one of the best moves I've seen in a long time. And he's up into 3rd place, and I think he took advantage of Charlie Harris' misdemeanors, but Charlie Harris is going to fight back then. We got Luke and Glock fighting side by side as well. It seems to be all kicking off here at the British Grand Prix, a circuit which is one of the favourite Grand Prix of the year last season in real life, as Yaham goes down the inside of GMAT up to 11th place. It's all starting to kick off here, and Iceman, well, he's had a good qualifying, and he's starting to have a very good race, and he's going to start and chase down Tam for 3rd position. But we know how Charlie Harris is quick in a straight line. We'll see what he could do. Casper gets a move into turn 1 very nicely indeed in the McLaren, up into 8th position. We see Kieran and Cam going side by side then as well. Leaves enough space as they possibly can. Kieran up to 14th place, and Cam unfortunately down into 15th. But would he try and get that switchback heading towards the Wellington straight? We'll have to wait and see, of course, as he's going to have the benefit of the DRS. The 2 title contenders from last season are going to fight once again like they did towards the end of last season. Cam trying to go around the outside this time, but Kieran covers him off on the inside into Luffield. And I think Kieran's going to have the advantage and the upper hand on that one, because he has more ERS as well, which does help. I wonder if Cam is going to risk it heading towards Cop's corner. We have seen that a couple of times in real life, a few times where it didn't go as well, but we've seen Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton go side by side there, and it goes well. I think it seems to be a thing, Aidan, that more people going side by side through there as Kieran covers off Cam there. So Cam, unfortunately, not pulling off a nice man move there, as he wanted to get P14 from Kieran, but there we go. I never would have thought that battle for P14 is this exciting, but it's one of the fastest guys from last season who also hit each other a little bit. No harm done though. They keep going, and looks like Cam's going to get P14, or maybe not. Kieran down the inside into Vale maybe as well. Oh, Kieran spins, and that's the end of their battle.
Yeah, that's the end of that one. That's a bit of a shame, but yeah, Kieran was just kind of into the side of Cam. Cam did nothing wrong there. He left the space. It was just Kieran slightly misjudging how close he was to the Williams and spinning off the side. It's a real shame, unfortunately, but that is just how racing goes sometimes, unfortunately. Back to that move as well that Iceman pulled. Really smart move. You saw Glock and Charlie Harris going side by side through Cops. Glock didn't want to back out of it, and that put himself and Charlie Harris wide. Speed Iceman saw it coming, backed off through Cops and got the exit and got the pair of them. So really smart driving there from the Aston Martin driver. It's moved him up now into 3rd with a shot at running past Tam on this road as well. Luke managed to get past Glock as well, and all of a sudden Glock now seems to be struggling, which I'm a bit confused by. Glock started off the race hounding the back of Tam, and now he's struggling to keep up with the drivers in front. Whether he's got maybe a bit of damage we can't see, I'm not quite sure, but all of a sudden Glock is starting to fall off the pace that little bit, and Luke is almost losing touch with the 3 in front as well. So it's just starting to spread out ever so slightly at the front of the field. Speaking of the front of the field, Jinx is still pulling away at the front on those medium compound tyres. 5.5 second lead he has now got over his nearest challenger, as here comes Iceman down the inside, and it's going to be a clean move. He gets the move done down the inside. Tam doesn't fight that one. He lets the Aston Martin through, and I think for Tam, it's probably a smart idea to let Iceman through. If Iceman can pull Tam along a little bit and they can close up to Jinx in any way, shape or form, that will only help Tam out later on in this race. So I think if Speed Iceman can close in on Jinx, Tam just needs to latch onto the back, but that's going to be difficult because Charlie Harris is going to try and make the move now on the inside of Tam into turn 1, and he does, and Tam backs out of that one as well. So Tam down 2 places in 3 corners, but for the greater good of this race, it will probably be better for him if he lets the 2 go.
Yeah, definitely. They are faster than Tam, but there were a few drivers that didn't race in the pre-season race. So, of course, Tam didn't know what the pace was going to be of the other drivers around them. But Tam, will have to say, still doing a solid job at the moment. He's still a net P2 as well. So, yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you that he did the right thing there. But he's still got Luke and Glot chasing him down as well. So I'm a bit worried that he may have started to push too early on those hard tyres and that maybe it's starting to wear off a little bit. As surprisingly, it goes off very quickly, the hard tyres on this game in terms of optimum pace, as I found out in practice yesterday. But which is a bit surprising because on the game in F1 2021, it could last pretty much the whole race. Like, say, if you have to pit lap 1 for damage, for example. So, yeah, it is a different tyre model on this game, of course. So we have to wait and see what happens if anyone is able to make their hards last a little bit longer and go for that overcut strategy. Meanwhile, we've got another person trying to go for a move. Then we got Casper. Is he going to try and go down the inside into Stowe? He's doing a Ricardo Sen there almost as he heads through that corner, but Racy is having none of that at the moment. I'm used to seeing the 2 of them fight in another league, but they're fighting in this league as well, so they're both giving each other room as they head towards the final corner into the Hamilton straight then. Who's going to get P7? At the moment, it is Casper, but Racy is not going to give up in that Alfa Romeo and wants to get past ASAP at the moment. He's going to wait for Casper to make a mistake, I'm almost certain. And then they're probably going to challenge for a move once again. Meanwhile, up front, Glock try and gets past Luke, and we got a spinner as Luke has actually spun. So that is probably why. So, yeah, I think he had a bit of a moment, and he's now down in to 10th position. Kez has now passed him. Dax has now passed him. And that gives Casper and Batesy a little bit more braving space. Shame for Luke, because he was fine with Glock, but I don't think his mediums are lasting a bit longer than expected. It's lasting not that long than expected, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely looks like the case. And I'm also just keeping an eye on Tam at the moment. Speed Iceman, by the way, has managed to kind of level out the gap between himself and Jinx. They're running at fairly similar lap times, so Jinx is no longer pulling away. Iceman's kind of leveling the gap. In fact, he's bringing the gap down ever so slightly. I think Jinx seems to have a car that's a bit faster in a straight line. Iceman's got a bit more downforce, as I think Kieran's had another spin at the back of the field, unfortunately, in that McLaren. Yeah, Jinx seems to have a better car in a straight line, but Speed Iceman has a bit more downforce on him. So a couple of tenths faster is the Aston Martin. He's dragging Charlie Harris along as well, so Jinx hasn't got this race all his own way at the moment. The one thing I'm confused by, though, is Tam. We're 10 laps in, you would start to expect the medium compound tyres to just fall away in pace that little bit. But Tam is really struggling at the moment to keep up with the 2 drivers in front. He has got a lot more ERS than anybody in front of him in the field. But Tam really struggling to keep up with the medium runners in front. And it's kind of bizarre, isn't it? This track isn't really that hard on tyres. It's not going to be a track where you're going to struggle with tyre temperature in the hards either. There's a lot of corners that will put temperature in those hards. And there you go, Tam having a really bad wobble coming out of the loop hairpin. Really struggling to keep up with the medium runners. So clearly it seems in this race at least, the hard tyres are not a good race tyre. They don't look fast at all, which bodes, I guess if Tam can keep up with Charlie Harris and Speed Iceman and close in on Jinx, that will put Tam and Glock in a great position later on when the top 3 have to go on to the hard compound tyres that don't look that good of a race tyre today, and they can put the mediums on and seemingly be a lot faster. But with that mistake out of the loop, Tam has now completely dropped out of DRS range to Charlie Harris's Speed Iceman in front. So yeah, I'm kind of baffled. I think we're so used just to seeing everybody start on the hard compound tyres and not really see a pace difference because they're all on the same tyre. Now that we're seeing a lot of drivers on different tyres, it's interesting to see that actually the hard compound tyres don't look like a good race tyre at all.
It does depend, obviously, on the ability of the drivers as well. We've seen, obviously, in the leagues we commentate on Mondays that they do manage the tyres a lot better, maybe. So maybe down to the pace and the skill of the drivers as well and how they manage their hard compound tyres. As Jinx then goes into the pits. Now, that is a time that I need to have a check about the strategy, a time that I was expecting for them to go on to the hard compound tyres a lap earlier than intended, but I'm guessing he wants to go for that undercut, which, to be honest, on this game, it's easier said than done, because it is a lot harder to pull off the undercut on this game due to the fact that your tyre warm-up could last a bit longer on a set of the hard compounded tyres. So we'll see what Jinx can do when he comes out and warms up a little bit. That's probably why a few people are staying out, trying to go for that overcut strategy. So at the moment, on the road, Iceman is still leading, Charlie Harris in second, Tam in third, Glock in fourth, and Casper not being able to match the pace at the moment, but starting to close in. Cam, though, tries to get past GMAC with goodies, up into 10th place at the moment. Ewan, unfortunately, today is going from bad to worse, as he's now got another 3-second tyre penalty. So unless there's a safety car, I think his race is pretty much done. But he's still in the points at the moment, so as long as he finishes this race, and if other people make a mistake, he could get points in this race. Ratesy, Luke, and Nineton have also come in as well. Also want to set the hard compounded tyres, so we'll see where they are in relation to the other drivers around them once everyone else on the medium tyres comes out, well, pretty much into the pit lane and out on track once again then. So Iceman comes in then for his first and only stop. Charlie Harris stays out, Tam stays out, Glock stays out, Casper goes in. What about Keza? Is Keza going to go in? No, Keza stays out then. So out of the medium runners, the only one that stayed out is Charlie Harris and Keza.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if I were watching what's other people are doing strategy-wise, I would probably be doing the same thing as Charlie Harris right now. The medium tyre does look the better race tyre, so spend as much time on it as you can while it's still giving you the performance. Charlie's got plenty of ERS in his back pocket. He's got a comfortable gap back to Tam, where Tam's not going to be close enough to challenge him on the road. Give yourself as much time as you can on the faster compounded tyre, and you'll benefit later. Jinx obviously had to warm up his tyres on that lap. Speed Iceman now coming out of the pit lane. He'll have to warm his tyres up this time around. It was about 5 seconds, the gap between the two of them when they pitted. It's just over 5 seconds now. So Speed Iceman has lost a bit in that pit stop phase, but he could benefit from that later on, as Kieran's gone for yet another spin, unfortunately down in last place, sadly. But yeah, Jinx is the good thing is that Jinx seems to have got his tyres up to temperature fairly easily. His only problem now is he's now got to catch these hard runners who won't be pitting for a few laps yet, and they could form a problem in terms of them being traffic for Jinx, and that could obviously hold him up for these latter stages of this race. So we'll wait and see what Jinx can do. Just looking at his sector times though, on his first fast lap on the hard compound tyres, he's already 2 tenths down in the first sector on his best lap on the mediums, even with half the fuel. So just again proving that the hard tyres don't seem to be that good of a race tyres. We've got a yellow flag, and that is Casper that has spun. That is such a shame. Casper was having a really good race, but first lap out of the pit lane on a cold set of hard compound tyres, it's easy to do. He's unfortunately spun the car coming out of Luffield. It's one of the corners where you're going to see a lot of spins. It's a tricky traction zone at the best of times. On cold tyres, it's very difficult, and Casper's fallen foul to that, which is such a shame. He's still on track to get some points in this race, but yeah, he was looking at potentially a top 6 finish. That seems to have fallen away now, though, with that spin.
Yeah, he's had a new rig recently, which he's definitely got used to now, and that's probably shown why he's gained quite a few positions, because he loves this track. So a bit unfortunate, but still a long way to go. We're halfway into this race now, so still plenty of time for Casper to fight back. He can go on these tyres until the end of the Grand Prix, and hoping that they last. Keza then is the final one on the medium tyres to go into the pit lane, and Charlie Harris, as we were talking about Casper, has got past Iceman. So Iceman is struggling a little bit to warm up those hard tyres compared to Charlie. So Charlie, I think, doing a lot better warming up his tyres, and he's already pulling away, which just goes to show the pace difference on the two drivers. So the overcut worked very well for the Ferrari driver, but we'll see if Iceman can fight back heading towards Stowe in just a moment then. And all this is doing is allowing Jinx to increase the gap up to 7 seconds, which I have to say is pretty insane for a driver that I've only known for a little bit. As another yellow flag, that's one of the McLarens. Please say it's not Casper. I think it's Kieran that had a bit of an off, which is a bit of a shame for him. But we got Jinx then in a net race lead at the moment. Let's see if Iceman can fight back then, as he's going to use, I think, some EOS to try and get past as Mata goes into the pit lane. You can see how Charlie Harris is covering off Iceman very quickly indeed. So I don't think Iceman's going to have a go on this one. No, he's going to wait for a little bit and save some EOS, which I have to say is quite the best strategy in my opinion. Meanwhile, Ratesy and Keza having a nice battle into Stowe, as Ratesy gets past at the moment. Going to be scoring a point, which is really great news for his debut in VSL, as we got Mata on a set of the medium compounded tyres. That is early for someone who started on the hard compound tyres to go onto a set of mediums. I was expecting for them to go around about lap 15, 16, but you know, it could work. We'll have to wait and see. There's not much of a difference really in terms of stints between the hards and the mediums.
Yeah, definitely not. There's not that big tyre wear difference between the two compounds here, so it's not really going to be that much of a struggle for Matter to get these to the end. So you may as well put them on and get the benefit of them and get the undercut on some of his hard rivals that are in front of him on the road. He was racing with the likes of Cam and Yaram, and then Petrodax is only just up the road, so he could gain a few positions by making this early pit stop. And we've got to remember, of course, Matter is recovering from a first lap spin, so he's doing a good job at the moment in recovering at the moment in this race. He's obviously just warming the tyres up at the moment, and then you should be straight onto the back of Keza and Waitsy in that battle, of course, for what should be potentially a top 6 finish in this race, as we've now got Tam into the pit lane from the lead of the race. So the leading hard runner is in. Glock goes on for another lap, so you would expect Petrodax in, and yes, he is in. So Glock continues on, Dax is into the pit lane, Tam is into the pits as well, and this will be interesting to see where Tam comes out in relation to obviously those that are pitted onto the hards like Jinx and Charlie Harris around him. He'll of course be quite far behind Jinx, you would imagine. You would imagine he'll also be behind Charlie Harris and Speed Iceman as well. It's just how far behind them he will potentially be as Jinx sets the fastest lap of the race, and that is a very fast lap indeed from Jinx. But here comes Tam out of the pit lane. Jinx has already gone through turn 1. Tam comes out of the pit lane, and actually he is going to be comfortably ahead of Charlie Harris and Speed Iceman. Quite comfortably as well. He's 2 seconds clear. That is more than enough of a gap for him to be able to warm those tyres up and not be under too much pressure. So actually, by starting on the hards and going a few laps longer, he's managed to overcut those who've gone onto the hards a few laps earlier in their pit stop phase. So good strategy there from Tam. That looks like he potentially now could be locking in a comfortable second place finish, and now it's all about whether he can catch that 6.5 second, potentially 7 second gap up to Jinx, who's in the net lead.
I think he wanted to potentially have the pain at the start of the race and then really push it in the final stint where he was very strong potentially. I think that's what a few of the medium runners are doing at the moment, as Matt and Yaham trying to go side by side almost went round the Red Bull of Keza there. That was very, very close in indeed. This could get very, very feisty between the Ferrari and the Red Bull. When was the last time we saw Red Bull and Ferrari fighting around this circuit? Wow, it's been quite a few times. We've got an Alpine not that far behind as well, heading past Maggots now as well, as Matter covers off Johan very nicely indeed. But I think we will start to see someone capitalise on someone's mistake by the looks of things, as Glock and Cam go into the pit lane for their stop then, as Matter having a brilliant straight line speed. He's got great ERS as well, doesn't even have to use it going on the straight in towards Stowe Corner, and with the fresher medium tyres gets past Keza up to 10th place. Surely Petrodax could be easy pickings, but it's going to be a lot harder due to the fact they're on the newer tyres compared to Massa. But you never know what could happen here as Cam comes out of the pit lane. We're seeing Iceman, Charlie Harris and Glock fighting at the moment, as Charlie is pretty much ahead of Glock for the time being. Tam still ahead of Charlie Harris, but you never know, Charlie Harris can catch up sooner or later. And here comes Iceman then into the Wellington straight. He wants to go for it because he's using his overtake right now into Brooklands then, all the way around into Luffield. Can he make this stick? Well, Fernando Alonso is going to be in the Aston Martin seat this season in real life. Is he channeling it in a Fernando Alonso Iceman? Or is he channeling someone else? We'll have to wait and see. Racing Cam going for a move, heading towards Woodcote. Cam, nice and easy for him, up to 7th place despite his penalty. Petrodax and Matt still fighting head to toe at the moment. I think since the pit stop phase, they seem to be battling quite a lot, and it's quite similar to what we've seen in other leagues. It starts off quiet, but in towards the middle, the end of the race, it starts to kick it up a gear at the moment, as Jinx gets past Ewan up to the race lead now, and he's able to stretch that gap. But Tam is able to close that gap just a little bit, just by being on those medium tyres.
Yeah, definitely is taking the gap down, and Jinx was taking his time getting them moved on Duin as well. So he's obviously lost a bit of time in that fight with the AlphaTauri, so that's going to help Tam out, of course, as well. And there you go, fastest lap 29.7. That is comfortably faster than Jinx fastest lap. It was a 30.3 earlier on, so Tam's got some good pace in those mediums. It's whether he can sustain it for the rest of the race and continue to close in on Jinx. By the way, one person I want to give a shout out to is Cam. Of course, got to remember he's spun earlier on in this race. As old Petrodax has had a spin at the final corner. He's ended up in the gravel trap on the outside of Club Corner. He continues on with seemingly no damage, but that's a solid top 10 result for Petrodax, potentially out of the window with that spin, which is a real shame, unfortunately. Yaram as well and Keza going side by side further down the field. Yaram going to try and go all the way around the outside of the loop and get the better run through entry onto the Wellington straight. Can Yaram get the move done? He'll have the DRS. They both have DRS actually on the run down towards Brooklands and Luffield. They're fairly even in a straight line. Keza should have the preferred line, and he does. Yaram backs out of it. Keza holds on to 10th for a time being, but you would imagine it's only a matter of time before Yaram gets this move done. What I was going to say is a big shout out to Cam. Spun earlier on in this race, of course, at Cops on lap 2. Spun to the back of the field and has already managed to recover to 7th as Yaram and Keza do go side by side, and Yaram gets the move done around the outside of Cops. That is a lovely move, Charles Leclerc-esque there from Yaram into 10th position. Lovely move. He's up another place, so great move there from Yaram into the top 10. Keza down to 11th, but of course that is still points as it stands at this point in the race. And yeah, like I was saying, Cam, what a great recovery so far from that spin, back up to P7 already. It's a bit of a trek to the next car in the field, so you would imagine P7 is the best Cam is going to get, barring any sort of chaos later on. But either way, what a recovery Cam has made in this race.
It just goes to show the amount of pace that he has around this track potential. It's one of his favourites, and you do not give up in league racing, and that's definitely what Cam is showing. And just like that, 1:29.6 is his fastest lap on the road at the moment, so he does mean business. Imagine what he could have been if he didn't have that spin early. He would have been near the front fighting for the winner, what I would expect, but there you go. Sometimes things happen for a reason. As Glock trying to go down the inside of Charlie Harris, heading towards Luffield, but the switchback could belong to Charlie Harris here, but Glock is in full place at the moment, showing off his medium tyres to perfection, and you have to say, hard tyres not looking too good for Charlie Harris at the moment, but could he try and go for Charles Leclerc move in and towards Cops Corner? The answer to that is no. The hard tyres doesn't have that much grip compared to the medium compounded tyres. Casper and Petrodat having a nice battle for 14th position. That's up to 14th place. Casper's down to 15th place, but Casper will drop down due to Petrodat's having no penalties at all, and it is quite a common chat on this game for people to get penalties, so expect to see a lot of jumble in the order once the checker flag falls, and not very long to go. So Matta then now trying to get past Vatesy then, as on those medium tyres he says thank you very much, I'm now up another position, and he's probably going to try and fight for P7 in this race. I think he is going to get P7 due to Cam's penalty. So yeah, he's definitely having a good comeback as well, because he's another driver that also got involved with a spin as well. So the ones who got involved in spins seem to be fighting back all of a sudden with the likes of Matta. But Petrodat is not going to fight back, though he's had a spin just as I said that. So sorry, Petrodat, that's my commentator's curse of the stream done and dusted, I think. But we'll see if Tam can try and get past Ewan, who's the only driver to not pit yet. Ewan is holding on to that second place. He's holding up Tam ever so nicely as Dax is out of the race. I believe he's retired in the pit lane, so no safety car. But Tam doesn't like being held up by Ewan there, because he wants to try and close in on Jinx. The gap is close to about 3 or 4 seconds, and Tam wants a piece of the pie. You don't really want to risk for a move that easy, but you just lose so much time being past a driver that is almost in puncher territory. You just got to play it safe if you're the likes of Tam, but, well, we'll have to wait and see what Tam can do, because Tam has no penalties either, neither does Jinx. So Tam with a straight line speed surely is going to be the move that Tam is looking for in towards Stowe. Yes, he is. He's now going to try and close in on Jinx to try and go for this race win.
Yeah, since the pit stop phase, he's managed to almost halve the gap, so it's been a good run of this race so far on these mediums for Tam. He's definitely still got a shot at winning this race. I think for Tam, he obviously didn't want to go for the move at Cox, but he didn't burn any ERS down the old pit straight either, so I think he could have got the move done if he burnt some ERS. I think that potentially would have saved him a bit more time than waiting a few more corners and then getting the DRS, because he was held up a bit by trying to kind of half go for that move at Cops. So we'll see if that does come back to bite him in this race. Glock will be the next person to have a run at Dewan. And I think Dewan, considering the age of his tyres, Dewan's definitely not doing too bad of a job. I think you could definitely tell, though, he is just staying out and hoping that there's some sort of safety car that he can benefit from by pitting under the safety car and gaining a few places that way. We shall wait and see whether that does fall into his favour, but it's getting less and less likely by the lap at the moment that is going to happen, and at some point he is going to have to give up on that strategy and come into the pit lane. And Glock, here we go, got a lovely run coming out of Loffield, who's already up the inside, and that is moved on for Glock. He's up into third position. Nice move from him, opportunistic, getting past Drew, and he made a mistake mid-corner, and Glock into the podium position. So now it's 2 medium runners in Tam and Glock chasing down Jinx for the lead of this race. Has starting on the mediums paid off for Jinx? Has he been able to build up enough of the gap in the first half of the race that he can hold on to for the second half? Or can Tam and Glock reclaim the time that they lost in the first half of this race? It seems to be for Jinx that when he gets on a set of compounded tyres, he gets out of the gates on that compounded tyre really well, and then he just starts to struggle on that compounded tyre in the second half of the stint. We saw it on the mediums at the start. He shot out of the gates and had a 3-second lead by the end of lap 2, but by the time we saw Iceman and Charlie Harris get past, they were both catching Jinx. So I'm wondering whether Jinx just goes a little bit too hard on his tyres at the start of the stint and he suffers a little bit too much in the second half.
I think it may be down to tyre pressures, I think, for the likes of Jinx. He may be having brilliant tyre pressures at the start of the stint, but towards the end, the tyre temperatures can increase a little bit due to the tyre pressures, and it may be hard to get to grips with as well. You may be losing the rear end quite a lot due to your the setup being loose as well. So many possibilities for Jinx, but we'll see if him starting on the mediums was worth it, or will he have to be compromised a little bit as Ewan. I think the main reason why he started on those hards because he really wanted to go onto a set of the soft compound tyres. Why not? He's got nothing to lose. He's near the back anyway, so he's going to try and go for fastest lap, which you do get if you're out inside the top 12. You get some nice extra 2 points added to your total as well, which is great to see. He's 14th at the moment though, so he's going to hope for some mistakes from the people in front of them in order for Ewan to go for the fastest lap. Gap now between Jinx and Tam, 2.9 seconds, so it's coming down just a little bit with less than pretty much almost 5 laps to go until the end of the Grand Prix at this stage as well. Charlie Harris still keeping that saber gap between himself and Glock at the moment, but you never know, it could increase as we head towards the end of this Grand Prix. Let's look at penalties, by the way. Oh boy, we have a lot. Charlie Harris is on 6, Iceman and Cam, Yarham and Ratesy on 3, G-Max on 8, Casper's on 6, Ewan and Speed United on 3 seconds, Kieran on 9, Simon Palmer on 6. Everybody else though, no penalties to their name. I wonder if a few people are still on, maybe on 2 warnings potentially, and on the cusp of getting a penalty. I'm looking at the likes of Glot, maybe, Matter, the ones who are pretty much going for moves every so often and exceeding track limits ever so slightly. They could be on the cusp of maybe getting a penalty too, but I hope not. We'll see how it is come the end of this race, but we'll see what Tam can do at this later stage, and it looks like he seems to be settling better on the mediums than he is on the hards, so I think the mediums are definitely the right tyre to be on.
Yeah, definitely looks like it, and they've been the better tyre all the way through this race. I think Tam's definitely got the pace on Jinx. I don't know if he's got enough pace, though, with the amount of time left. I think he's going to have to push a bit harder to get to the back of Jinx. He's only about 4 or 5 tenths a lap faster, and at the moment, that's not really going to get him close enough to Jinx's fight at the end of the race. So Tam's got to find just that bit more time. And of course, obviously, being on the hards at the end of the race isn't as much of a burden as it is being on the hards at the start of the race, of course, because you don't have always, I think, is that Yaram that's had a spin? Or no, that's Cam. Oh, Cam, another spin. He had a comfortable 6th place going after that early spin that he'd recovered from, and now he's spun all on his own, and that 6th place has gone again. So all that hard work he did recovering from the first spin has all been undone. That is such a shame for Cam. He's down to 11th. He's still in the points, but he has got a long way to go to try and recover from that as well. As we've got another yellow flag. I think that is Simon Palmer, who's had a spin down in last position. He's almost about to get lapped at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if Cam pits. No, Cam stays out, but that is such a shame for Cam. All that hard work he put in trying to recover all that time and all the ground he lost, he's just lost it again with that spin, and that has put Matter now up into 6th. So Matt will be very happy considering how his first lap went, that he's currently on for a top 6 finish in the first round of the season, although he won't be happy that he is 13.5 seconds off the next car.
Yeah, so even with the penalties around him, he's still going to be P6. So unless someone in front of him spins, he's going to stay 6th. But to be fair, he will take it despite that spin. And I think usually when he starts going into a spin, he ends up climbing up places anyway. So to be honest, he's having a good race with his standards. Bearing in mind, though, he's got the red fuel light, so he is running out of fuel ever so slightly. So if I was him, I would do a lot of things to try and save your fuel ASAP, because you can't go on to lean unless that's a safety car. And I doubt there's going to be a safety car coming up. I think at the end of this lap, if we don't get any safety cars, we won't get any safety cars at all, which is, I think, I'm quite surprised to say that with this league, because usually around Silverstone we've got like 2 or 3 by now, but it seems to me they put the practice in and they like this track potentially, and maybe the lack of safety cars is definitely helping them a little bit as well, which is going to probably make the stewards' life a lot easier too as well. So Charlie Harris then on lap 24, 26 in 4th at the moment. Even though he may not get third on the road, he's going to try and get past Lot to secure that before penalties, which is easier said than done for him, of course, as well. I doubt Tam's going to get past Jinx, I think, by the time this race is finished. So I think the order you'll see will be the order you'll see at the end of this race, unless you're Yarham, who's looking to try and get past the one of the league owners, Matter. Yarham then is a lot quicker. He's got fresher tyres as well. He's got that penalty, but he definitely wants the glory anyhow. Matter can't afford to take too many risks here, as Yarham then, he's going to think about left. Is Matter going to defend? Doesn't look like it, did he? He didn't look like he was going to defend. No. I think he was playing it safe there. So, yeah, Yarham up to 6. As long as Matter keeps up to the pace of Yarham, Matter will get P6 anyway.
Yeah, I think Matter knew that. He's a smart driver. He knows that there's no point in fighting Yarham. He's going to get the position anyway on penalties. So you may as well just let Yarham go and just follow the Alpine, although the Alpine is running wide at Copse. So Matter could come back at him down towards Stowe as further up the field. Charlie Harris on the hards has come back at Glock and is back through on the Haas. So that's interesting that maybe all of a sudden now the hard tyres have maybe hit a bit of a wall. Glock's going to try and come back at Charlie Harris down the inside. That move was never really on, and the door was slammed firmly in Glock's face. He's had a bit of a wobble coming out the corner. That's going to put Iceman right on the back of him as well. So Glock again, for the second time in this race, going for a move, and the move is not going to pay off, and he's potentially going to lose the place to Aston Martin. I think this time around, though, he's just far enough ahead of Iceman to not have to worry about that. But interesting that the medium runners now seem to have kind of hit a wall of pace, haven't they? They don't really seem to have the pace anymore in this portion of the race, as Matter and Yarham side by side through turn 1. So all the talk we were talking about Matter playing it safe has gone out the window because he's just overtaken Yarham at one of the most unlikely places on the track into turn 1. So Matter back through and up into P6, but Yarham will also have a great run in back and down the next straight if he potentially wants to get back up into that 6th on the road. And yeah, I'm kind of surprised that the medium runners have kind of hit a wall in pace and have struggled so much in the latter half of this race. I think it's maybe just to the fact that because there's less fuel in these cars at the end of the race, the hard tyres are actually a lot easier to drive in the second half of the race because they don't have to worry about the fuel limitations, and that's why we're not seeing this big difference in pace that we saw at the start of the race between the hards and the mediums.
Yeah, potentially. That's probably why Charlie Harris was able to get past Glock in the latter stages of that lap, and it looks like that as long as he keeps that gap relatively clean, he could pretty much decrease that deficit that he had, and it would help him gain a lot of position. Oh, Simon Palmer is out of this race. He's retired in the pit lane. I think he was lapped anyway, so he didn't really want to finish this race, unfortunately. We're on the final lap of this British Grand Prix then, the opening round of the season, and we're seeing more battles which are starting to reappear at the moment as Luke gets past Keza up to 9th spot then. Even though on older tyres, Luke is definitely showing that he has the pace around there if he did not go into a spin earlier on in this race. As we've got, I think, quite a few more drivers seem to struggle on their hard tyres towards the end. We got a yellow flag. That's probably Simon's AI. Yeah, that is Simon's AI. Has had a bit of a moment there. Cam trying to go down. Ooh, almost a bit of contact, banging wheels there. Cam's got to try and ease off a little bit, but I think he's got this one covered. No, he does not. Keza has this one covered on the hard tyres. I think you were right that the hard tyres are starting to come a bit more alive towards his latter stages of the Grand Prix due to the fact they've got less fuel. Cam, can he get past Keza this time round? No, he cannot. Let's jump near the front then. Iceman on the back of Glock. He's on the hard tyres. If tradition dictates, maybe he could try and get past Glock then to get into 4th place on the road. But will he afford to not take any risks? We'll have to wait and see. You can see that Glock is harvesting on the road. So no, Iceman is not going to go for the move. But let's go on board with Jinx. He pretty much led every single lap apart from when he went into the pits. He took pole. He may not get fastest lap though, but who cares? Jinx comes across the line and takes his first win of the season. I believe his first win in the league as well. Tam with an impressive debut. Struggled on the hards but did very well on a set of the medium compounded tyres. Up to second. Glot in third. Charlie Harris fourth. I think Iceman will be very happy with fifth. Yarham with a good recovery to sit. Vatesy in seventh. Good debut for him. Matter could have been higher, but has he got a puncher? He's run out of fuel.
Run out of fuel. Yeah.
I was wondering why, because he was sixth a moment ago. But yeah, I did see he had the yellow warning light a moment ago. Well, the red warning light, and yeah, he was hoping for a safety car, but we had no safety car, and yeah, it was a little bit of a gap between Matter and Kesvin, and it's 69 thousandths between those two, but at least he still got points. Cam and Casper recovered to 11th and 12th. They get the fastest, well, they get the final point. Fastest laps, well, I wasn't able to see who got the fastest lap there, if they would get the extra point or not, but Jinx was just on another level tonight. Even though Tam put in a valiant effort to catch up to him towards the end, that start and that pace at the start of the race really helped him there.
Yeah, it really did. The pace that he put off, really in the first 2 laps of the race, you've got to say one Jinx this race. It was a really strong start to the race, definitely, from the Mercedes driver. Tam still put up a good fight, and so did Glock as well, put up a solid fight in that race as well. As did Iceman and Charlie Harris. You've got to say, other than the first maybe 3 laps of this race, Jinx definitely wasn't the fastest person tonight. You've got to say, Charlie Harris and Speed Iceman on the same strategy as Jinx had just the same amount of race pace as Jinx did. They just didn't have the track position at the start of the race to go with it. So if they did have the track position, maybe they could have put up more of a fight, but they weren't able to. Jinx made it work in qualifying, and it paid off in the race as well. Tam, valiant effort, but yeah, just too slow at the start on those hard compound tyres. Wasn't able to keep pace, and that's cost him at the very end of the race as well. When Glock P3, I think he'll be happy with that. It's not too bad of a race from Glock. Maybe a few mistakes here and there that he needs to iron out, but still not a bad run. And yeah, shame for Matter that he ran out of fuel at the end there, because it's cost him 3 places, and then he would have been 6th. He's now 9th. Yara managed to hold on to that 6th place in the end by just a 10th of, well, just a couple of hundredths of a second over Luke, who didn't have a penalty. So Yara just holds on to 6th ahead of Luke, with Waitsy holding on to 8th as well ahead of Matter, who obviously ran out of fuel. So yeah, bit of a shame there for Matter. A lot of drivers kind of went up and down, up and then down again in that race, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So that is your order then, with Jinx, Tam, Glot, Charlie Harris, Iceman. With that top 3, I have to say, it looked like they would have probably had a boring race, but it definitely wasn't boring for them. They were battling throughout all of it. Then we have the likes of Johan, Luke, Vatesy, Matter, Keza, Cam and Casper. Then we got G-Matt, Ewan and Knighton and Kieran rounding up your finishers, and then the rest, unfortunately, was your retirement. So yeah, it was a pretty decent race to round up the season, and apart from Jinx, any drivers of the day that were in were similar level did a big improvement, do you think?
I think a shout out to Yaram. I think definitely good result for them. P6, obviously quite a way off the top drivers, but Yaram kept it clean. Obviously did have a time penalty, but didn't make any mistakes. Didn't have any on-track incidents, and he was benefited at the end with that, of course, fuel mistake from Matter. So a P6 in the end. While maybe P6 on pace isn't where Yaram is, he did a good job keeping it clean and keeping out of trouble, and he was rewarded for it. And that is how sometimes you get the good championship results, isn't it? By being clean, being safe, playing it safe, and picking up where other people make mistakes. So good job from Yaram there. I think he's another driver that definitely deserves a shout out today. I would have given another shout out, of course, to Cam for that recovery, but again, that second spin in that race really put pace to what could have been a really good recovery for Cam, which is a bit of a shame. So, but at least Cam knows that he has got the pace to fight. He had good pace all race long. He was running at the same pace as the leaders. So if it comes to a track that's more suited to him, where he isn't going to make the mistakes, Cam does have the pace to win in a race this season. So I'm sure we'll see a lot more from Cam this season.
Definitely. I think he's got nothing to lose at the end of the day. It's the first race. There's still plenty of the season to go. So, yeah, I hope he doesn't let those spins phase him and he can concentrate on the next race, which I believe, if I remember, it's a sprint race around Austria. Now, Austria is a close qualifying session. It is one shot, completely different to, obviously, the short qualifying we've seen today. And I think we could see quite a close qualifying next week, I think. And don't forget, the sprint race decides the grid for the actual 50% race later on in the evening next week. So I think it should be a good one.
Yeah, definitely should be. Austria, I think one-shot qualifying especially, it's obviously, you can't make a mistake in one-shot qualifying because you don't have another opportunity. So it's going to be interesting. We could have a bit of a mixed-up grid for the sprint race, and that can obviously make for a really interesting sprint race and a feature race as well. So that would definitely be interesting. And Austria as well, I don't know how I feel about Austria as a track. It always, for commentating, it always seems to provide some sort of carnage, doesn't it? It always seems to trigger that. But I think because there's so few corners on it, there's only, what, 7 proper corners? There's 10 in total, but 7 of them are really corners that you actually have to brake and turn for. Some of the others are just kinks in the straight. So there's not really much going on in terms of the track itself. And because of that, the field is always bunched together. And a bunched together field sometimes leads to chaos. So we'll wait and see how it goes. It's going to be a long one, though, for the drivers. 36 that feature race, and I'm not quite sure how long the sprint race is going to be. I think it's about 14 or 15 laps, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, it's a long sprint race in terms of sprint race distances because it's such a short track. So going to be a lot of laps of these drivers next week. It's going to be a difficult one.
Yes, indeed. So that is the end of the stream. Thank you to, of course, my co-com for the season for joining me for the opening round. Looking forward to some more races together next week. Thank you to everyone for watching. Also, make sure you check us out on Twitter and Instagram at VSL F1. We stream every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Also, make sure you check out our sponsor as well, which you can find on the top right or left of your screen as well. I will put the link in the description as well for more information from myself and Aidan. Have a good evening. We will see you next week for the sprint race in Austria. Have a good evening, everybody. Ta-ra. Bye.